Hello, America, and welcome to the Glenn Beck program. I'm just looking at the monitor, and they go right to my face, well, and the rest of my body. Welcome to GBTV. This is the network that you are building. The race for the GOP nomination could end very well tonight. It is Super Tuesday, and it feels super, doesn't it? 10 states are up for grabs today. The outcome in most of these states appears to be certain. Georgia likely go for Newt Gingrich. Oklahoma and Tennessee will likely go for Santorum. Alaska, North Dakota, Idaho, Massachusetts, Vermont, Virginia will likely go to Romney. The polls show a tight race in the crucial state of Ohio. Santorum is up in some polls. Romney is up in others, with firm reliance on divine providence. However, Intrade tells a different story, one not so favorable for Santorum, with Romney having an 84% chance to win the state. But you never know. Santorum just a few weeks ago was pulling at 1%. Look where he is now. And who would have thought that Newt Gingrich and Ron Paul would still be hanging around at this point? If you haven't voted, don't let the polls keep you home. I don't care if you're voting for your cat. Go out and vote. It's your responsibility, and this is not the election to sit on the sidelines. There is more at stake at this time than any other previous election in American history, I believe. This probably goes back to 1860, right before the Civil War. I do not believe that America survives as we know it another 4 years with this administration. Quite honestly, I don't know if it survives 4 more years of an Obama-light administration. We need a radical in the Oval Office. Well, one that will take us a different direction. We have a radical in the Oval Office now. I want to show you the debt. 4 years ago, it was $10.6 trillion. Now, it's 15.4. They're saying it'll be up over $25 trillion 4 years from now. What's on the line is this won't last. It can't last. And so we need a giant course correction. How do we do it? Well, let me show you what's at stake. Let me show you the things that we have to decide, and we have to decide them this time around. Let's start with energy. We are already suffering through record high gas prices for this early in the year. We told you last night, could be $440 a barrel if something happens in the Middle East. With energy, national gas price average is now $3.79 a gallon. This is a heat map of gas prices throughout the country. Look at California. It's over $4.20. How's that environmental stuff working out for you, California? This election, we are fighting against people who put the caribou mating season ahead of Americans and their dependency on dirtbag foreign countries for oil. Anybody remember why we bought Alaska from Russia in 1867? Anybody remember? $7.2 million. It wasn't so Ansel Adams could make a new calendar. It was for cheap energy. But our president and his energy secretary both prefer expensive energy. That's not my words. That's not my speculation. Those are their words. Here's the president first.
Under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket.
Okay. He was saying that because he wanted them to skyrocket, because it would be a way to fundamentally transform America. Not long after that, Stephen Chu said, somehow we have to figure out how to boost the price of gasoline to the levels of Europe. Now, who is this guy? He's our energy secretary. They're actively trying to make your gas prices higher, and they're doing it. In fact, they're doing a fantastic job. There's one promise that the Obama administration has kept, to make your energy prices necessarily skyrocket. So here's your choice, America. Do you believe in that? Do you want $10 a gallon gasoline and everybody riding around in smart cars and mopeds like they do in Europe? Because that's where we're headed. Or would you actually like to responsibly use the land that we already have to become energy independent and a global leader again? Now, when I say global leader, that leads us to the next topic that we have to decide, and that is war. When I say global leader, I don't want to be the policeman of the world anymore. I'm tired of taking care of everybody else. We're not even taking care of ourselves anymore. I don't think I've heard the right answer from any of the candidates on the wars, not one that I agree with. If you look at these four candidates, I know I don't get it from Barack Obama, but I also don't get it from Ron Paul, who I'm the closest to Ron Paul on most of the thing. When it comes to financial, I'm Ron Paul. But we separate big time when it comes to war. Ron Paul thinks America should just pull out of everywhere. Nature abhors a vacuum. It won't work. We have to slowly come back out of this as quickly as we can, but slowly. He also believes that it's America that creates terrorists. Ron, I agree that we have our share to take blame for. I also agree that we should have many fewer bases and reduce our footprint dramatically. But if our presence is what's causing terrorism, then why out of 150 or so bases around the world is only one group, radical Islamic terrorists, trying to kill us? Answer: it has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with our religion and their crazy interpretation of theirs. We didn't make them that way. It wasn't our interventionist policies that made Islam attack people off of the coast of Libya under Jefferson. We were massively not interventionist under Jefferson. Where we agree, I don't believe in nation building, and that's what we're doing. Afghanistan will never be Thomas Jefferson's republic. Neither will Iraq. Neither will Libya. When the people develop what we know as Judeo-Christian values, focusing on the sanctity of life, then they may yearn to breathe free. And maybe we can help them do that. But now, too many just yearn to be in charge, and they do so in the name of God. Next on this list of guys who understand war, maybe, is Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, I know he understands it intellectually, but I'm not sure he realizes what time it is. I'm not sure he's out of the classroom or the boardroom on this. How serious does he think things are? People like Mitt, I think, are systems people. They hang around the boardrooms in Wall Street or universities. They hang around people and companies with billions of dollars and lots of insurance. And some of that insurance is actual physical insurance in case something burns down, or it's a system like Wall Street. Oh, well, we can just shut the stock market down. But I'm sorry. One of the worst investments we made was AIG, and I know we made that against our will. It was this administration and the last that got us into buying up AIG. That's an insurance company. But I'm telling you right now, no insurance will cover $500 trillion of the world's problems. And no system, computer or otherwise, in the world will prevent a collapse of the global system because of corruption, cronyism, and just stupid decisions. Now, let's look at Santorum. Does he get it? Well, he understands what we're facing in the Middle East, but he is also more interventionist than I want. For me, he doesn't see enough of the problems that we do cause by wanting to be the world's policeman or thinking that we can build nations. We can't. We can't save everyone. We're losing ourselves trying to save others. But one of these three is going to be one of the guys that runs against Barack Obama. One of these three. I mean, I know there's, Newt Gingrich, but you know how I feel of Newt Gingrich, so I didn't think I really need to throw him in the mix tonight. President Obama is the great apologizer who apparently feels that an accidental burning of the Koran is a greater crime than murdering innocent U.S. soldiers in retaliation. And the numbers of the dead don't lie. As of July 2011, there were 970 U.S. casualties in Afghanistan that happened on Obama's watch. That equals 63%. Almost two-thirds of all U.S. casualties took place in the nearly 10-year-long war. And that number is getting higher and higher and higher. For what? For what? Look at this. The press couldn't take it. They couldn't take the kills and the casualties under Bush. Here's Obama. Come on. What are we fighting for anymore? Does anybody know? Because I don't. I don't even know what victory looks like. That's all I used to say is, tell me what victory looks like. I don't even know what it looks like. Was that victory in Iraq? I don't think so. That wasn't victory. Did we win? I have never been more pro-troops but anti-war in my life. And the anti-war president has made it worse. Which candidate will get it right on the Middle East? Let's not forget Israel. You also have Al-Qaeda making a comeback in Iraq. More attacks this year than in the second half of 2011 when the troops were pulling out. Al-Sadr, remember him? He was the guy we went for. This was the guy throughout much of the peak of the Iraqi war, was the guy that you would have gotten a ribbon for and praise from everybody if you would have killed him. As soon as we pulled out, he became part of the elite ruling class. He's trying to pull a Muslim Brotherhood and distance himself now from the violence. Time magazine even named him one of the most influential 100 for 2011. He must have bumped me off. It's Al-Sadr. Has the world forgotten who this killer is? Which one of these candidates will actually lead our country to a brighter tomorrow? Which one of these candidates will say Islam, as it is interpreted in the Middle East, is a danger to every free man on the planet? Will any of them say that? I will tell you now, this guy, Barack Obama, will definitely not say it. In fact, I have information. I got a phone call from a congressperson today. Something is happening with the FBI at a breathtaking rate. They are clearing the path now. We're not even training anybody to look for Islamic terrorists. The FBI is almost a wholly owned subsidiary of CARE now. This Congress is speaking to me because they told me no one else in the media would actually listen and is not beholden to someone. I hope to elaborate more on this on tomorrow with a special segment on terror that General Jerry Boykin and Eric Stakelbeck will be here to break. Let's go back to what we're facing now. What is tonight really all about, Super Tuesday? Freedom of speech. We are rapidly descending into a culture that does not encourage, but instead suppresses free speech. Let's just go over a couple of the headlines. ESPN headline writer canned for writing chink in the armor for an article about an Asian American, Jeremy Lin. Despite, that's not what he meant, despite an obviously upstanding citizen who has a spotless work and personal history, ESPN just fired him. Why? It's ABC. 13-year-old was run out of school for daring to criticize her teachers in an essay about Frederick Douglass. Why? You don't speak out about the teachers. You'll hear from her on this set Thursday. Her and her mom are flying in. Also, Alveda King will be here to talk about this. The Obama administration is also taking the heavy-handed approach on whistleblowers by applying the rarely used Espionage Act of 1917 to punish them. This guy faced 35 years in prison for the horrible crime of trying to save the NSA from wasting millions on a system that could easily be purchased for less. Tea Party groups and 9/12 groups are getting audited at an unbelievable rate, even though Occupy, who has larger bank accounts, is ignored. Which candidate will actually have the cojones to stand up and fight for your freedom of speech? Who will stand and say the tough things? Who will make sure that, I don't care if you're for Occupy Wall Street or for the Tea Party, you both can speak? Who will stand for that? Next one that the media is making into a big deal is contraception. I mean, I never thought we'd ever have to debate contraception again. What is this, 1955? It's not an issue. No one wants to ban it, even that papist Rick Santorum. Liberals want you also to have sex so badly that you can get free contraceptives practically anywhere, from a gumball machine or from Sharon Stone's house. Sharon Stone serves them out to her kids' friends. She has a big bowl of them. Planned Parenthood gives them away. And if you have to pay for contraception, Walmart and Target offer plans for as low as $4 a month. So this isn't an issue. This is a political issue because you can't talk about the real ones. This is almost an issue of freedom of speech. What they're trying to do is push the conversation so far and silence anyone on the other side. So no one is able to speak out against places like Planned Parenthood. And it'll make Planned Parenthood look reasonable. They have to silence people. Otherwise, people will start to figure out who Planned Parenthood really is. This is a piece that we ran on The Blaze. I want to warn you, if you have kids in the room, pause it, have them leave the room for a few minutes, and then come back. You don't want to watch this with your kids. It's uncomfortable, and it is horrifying. We ran this on The Blaze. We have not run this on television before, but you need to see it. They want you to think that Planned Parenthood is reasonable and mainstream and innocuous. It is none of those things. Watch the truth on Planned Parenthood. Watch.
What's truly shocking is how these perverts are allowed unfettered access to our children while raking in government cash to sell them unrestrained sex. Oh, Planned Parenthood will claim that what they teach kids is scientific and age-appropriate. But the fact of the matter is that age-appropriate is a standard concocted by Planned Parenthood itself so that it can sell pornography to kids as science. Why would they do this? Just as the goal of a drug dealer is to make drug addicts, Planned Parenthood's goal is to make sex addicts, and they follow the same business model. For instance, Planned Parenthood's gateway drug is masturbation. One of its primary resources for 10-year-olds is a book called It's Perfectly Normal, and it sells masturbation to kids with graphic images of naked boys and girls masturbating, men and women having sex,
and so much more. It only gets worse from there. Much, much worse. By the way, that book was for 10-year-olds. This country is on a path to suicide. Which candidate will actually take Planned Parenthood head on without any malice? As Lincoln said, with malice toward none. But say the truth. And to hell with the consequences. We need Abraham Lincoln. Do you see one yet? What else are we facing? What are we up against? What do we have to decide? Well, one, are we a country that believes in God or not? Are we a country of faith? The Jews are under the gun again. Catholics are next. The Catholic Church and all the people of faith have seen where this administration stands on faith. Obama is more concerned about the feelings of reproductive rights activists than he is about forcing people of faith to violate their own conscience. One of the first things he did was to try to cut charitable giving. That was right out of the box. I was like, whoa, what a slap in the face that is. Are you crazy? He tried it. He'll do it again. He wins next term. He'll do it. Meanwhile, the number of mosques being built in this country is up 74% this decade. But here's the interesting part. The State Department is, your tax dollars going through the State Department is funding the building and renovation of mosques in the Middle East. My tax dollars are going to build mosques? I thought they believed in the separation of church and state. Well, they certainly do when it comes to separating us from Judeo-Christian values. In 2009, Obama covered up this IHS symbol for Jesus during a speech at Georgetown. His advisor came out and said this.
So I frankly am glad American civil religion is dying.
Now his spiritual advisor, the one that replaced Jeremiah Wright, is also speaking out, saying that America is not a Christian nation and it never was.
It's not a Christian nation. It's never been a Christian nation. We set this up so it would not be a Christian nation.
That's not true at all. America always has been a Christian nation, but we embrace all believers as long as you're not trying to snuff out everyone else. America is based on Judeo-Christian laws. It's the 10 Commandments in Deuteronomy. Anybody who has ever read the Bible and the Constitution, if you don't see the parallels, you're either a moron or a liar. Jim Wallace is certainly not a moron, so you do the math. Believers are increasingly mocked every step of the way. And if you don't believe me, try talking to some of your secular friends about your belief in creation over evolution, the theory of evolution. Here's what happens on mainstream television.
How are you standing on evolution these days?
I'm feeling pretty good about evolution these days.
You believe in it?
I believe that God is our creator, and I think that we've all evolved from the good Lord.
So you don't believe in evolution?
Well, I believe that God's our creator, and we've all evolved,
But you don't want,
from the good
what
Lord.
is it about? What is the troglodytes, the Luddites? What is the party that they used to believe in things?
Troglodytes, Chris, it's true.
No, it's just you
one of
guys
the things,
don't.
one of the things
You're
that we're
all the
missing
way
here is
back.
faith.
You're
we're
going
missing
back.
faith in this country.
No, excuse me. So I don't want to just plumb the depths of the position the party's taken. It's so far right these days. Let's go back to the life on this planet here.
The depths of where it's gone. Leave that up for a second. Bring that back up. Can you bring that back up? And do you see the title on that too? The title right here. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Isn't this the network that told everybody to stop the fear-mongering? It's no longer a disagreement. It's crazy and dangerous to believe in God. Now the next one is jobs. Probably the most important one, but look at all of the other things in front of it. None of them are ridiculous to talk about, except for contraception. We're talking about contraception now because they don't want us talking about jobs, because there aren't any being created. Unemployment is still high, 8.3%, and their solution is to print and spend. But 8.3% is deceiving. The actual number, if it was calculated on how we used to calculate it, is closer to 15%. Even the CBO says it's 10%. But African American unemployment is already way above that. According to the BLS, unemployment for 2011 is not 8.3, but for African Americans, it's 16%, the way we calculate it today. African American teen unemployment is over 40%. We've got a powder keg, gang, and nobody's talking about the real issue. It's jobs and justice. Sounds like 1963. All of the candidates fall into the trap of promising jobs, jobs, jobs. But which candidate is promising to get the hell out of the way so small business can create jobs? It's not GE or GM. It's small businesses that create jobs. Which candidate will cut the red tape in Washington and get the hell out of the way? Which one believes government is not the problem or is not the solution? It is the problem. We have a president that thinks the top priority is the safety of the spotted owl, not humans, which causes us to make decisions in this country, business decisions like banning light bulbs. It makes us buy, as humans, light bulbs that poison us. It makes us make business decisions like jamming electric cars down our throats, ones that seem to have a problem with spontaneous combustion. It also makes us decide things like say no to the Keystone Pipeline, costing Americans thousands of jobs, not to mention lots of cheap energy. Which candidate will pull us out of this and put the people first? Civil liberties, your rights. The nation is falling into darkness here as well. The National Defense Authorization Act. We can now scoop up Americans and detain them without trial, here and overseas. Former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino is a friend of mine. He called me this week. He warned me that the administration has taken steps to suppress any demonstration, something that both sides, occupiers and Tea Party, should be alarmed at, but nobody's paying any attention. Eric Holder has doubled down recently and said Americans can assassinate U.S. citizens if declared a terrorist threat. Watch.
It may not always be feasible to capture a United States citizen terrorist who presents an imminent threat of violent attack. In that case, our government has the clear authority to defend the United States with lethal force.
Didn't we ban assassinations? Even the ACLU is disturbed by this chillingly broad claimed authority to conduct targeted killings of American citizens. You think? It's especially disturbing when conservatives and Tea Parties are painted as enemies of the state who are economic terrorists just for wanting a smaller government and wanting cuts. Let's get to health care. Health care. Do we believe that doctors really are evil monsters who are ripping tonsils out for fun or cutting people's feet off for cash? Are we a nation that is totally cool with 6,000 new regulations in prescription drugs on the last 90 days alone? 6,000 new regulations. 500 regulations were proposed in a single week. And if you have cancer or a friend who has cancer, you know this. We now have problems even getting chemotherapy drugs. This election is it, gang. If small government pro-small business conservatives don't get the majorities, at least in Congress, the giant heap of regulation, job-killing, debt-crushing, dependency-creating, bureaucratic nightmare that is Obamacare, and so much more, is here to stay. It has to end now. Costs are predicted to rise in health care 6% next year, and this is what they want. It's how they get to a single-payer system. Your health care prices will necessarily skyrocket, and we told you this at the time. We are at a dangerous crossroads, and there is no return. If Barack Obama is elected, America will be fundamentally transformed if she hasn't been already. If we're lucky, we'll be mired in the muck of European-style soul-killing collectivism. But if I am right, we become Venezuela. And there is no return to the power of the people until the people return the power to the truth. We have so perverted our system of education and our churches and our values that we don't even care or recognize the truth when it hits us. We're repeating, the answers are here, we're repeating the problems of the past. I'm going to show you a couple of things. This is Thomas Paine. This is an original copy of Thomas Paine's Common Sense. This one was published in England, in London, in 1792. All right, so even in 1792, when Thomas Paine wrote this, the publishers, I mean, it was printed in England, and if you got caught printing it, you'd be in trouble. And so they did because of the king. They just left spaces here, empty spaces, where it just stopped in the middle of the sentence, because that way you weren't printing things that were against the king here. But they left these spaces, and what they knew, I think, they knew that people who would see the American version would then just take and copy in, and this is a copy of where somebody did it. They took a pen and they wrote in what was in the American version here. This was a case of common sense against the ruling elite. It is the case of the Tea Party and some sane people in Occupy Wall Street. Now, let me show you this one. This book is from 1771. This one was also printed in London. And this is about how the church and preachers just can't do anything right, and the government is the best instructor. I'll read a couple of things to you here. One of them is just how in the mouth of every preacher of what nation forever never has nor ever can form a virtuous people. No matter what they say, they can't form a virtuous people. The very end, I found this striking. Again, remember, 1771. The very end, the last paragraph here. Let it be so. Enjoy the moments in which we have, and that forbearance, in which heaven in forbearance grants you. Drink deep of the cup of iniquity. Intoxicate yourself with the poison of destructive flatterers. Till the people, discovering nothing respectable in the rich and the great, insult, molest, and despoil them of their possessions, till all the orders of the state, running headlong onto each other, under the weight of every vice, break asunder the bands of laws. This is 1771. It was originally written in French. It was translated. It's what led to this. Remember, common sense led to the American Revolution, but it celebrated God. This tore God apart and said it was the state run by the right people. These are the images of, can you bring one of the cameras over here? These are the images of what this led to. And I just want you to see some of these. Remember when I've said that people are going to go in, Occupy Wall Street will eventually go in and they'll pull people out of their houses and they'll take their stuff and they'll set everything on fire? Here it is. This is people going in and throwing all of the possessions out of the houses and killing the rich in the street. Here is a preacher, a priest, holding up the cross, trying to get it to stop. Here they are building the guillotine. This is what we're headed for. These are the images of the French Revolution. It's what this leads to. I mean, you look at Occupy Wall Street, Greece, it's done it before. Thomas Paine and the Occupy Wall Street of 1771. The same argument has been made before. There is nothing new in history. We know how it ends. We have to choose American Revolution or French Revolution. All of the characters are here from the past and the present. We have to choose which leader will help us. Which one? Which one of the 4 presidents will actually help us? Which one is King George? Which one is Robespierre? Which one is Washington? Which one is Sam Adams? Which one is Benjamin Franklin? Tonight is Super Tuesday. Tonight is the night that America has to decide which direction are we going and which one has the balls, despite the consequences, to stand up.